began in the morning, and I'll just be handing it over to him just to take us through what is happening where he is right now as we speak, as the CS is making his way to the National Assembly. This particular afternoon, he's expected to unveil the 2020-2021 financial year budget. And of course, I'll just hand it over to Alan just to take us through what is happening. What do we know as we speak, Alan? What should we expect in the next few minutes from your end? All right, we are trying to get hold of Alan there. He's on the ground for us covering this particular process. But in the meantime, the pictures you're seeing on your screen there is a strictly guarded Cabinet Secretary Ukur Yatan making his way to the National Assembly. You can see the security situation there, very tight for a man who all eyes are on this particular afternoon. Is expected to unveil the budget for this financial year. And it is, as culture, you see, this is something that we go through every particular year. But what's different is usually the numbers and some of the factors that come into play to explain those particular numbers. And this year we are talking about a budget of 3.66 trillion shillings. And of course, we have just been breaking these numbers for you and bringing in all these factors that come into play. What's unique about this financial year, one of the issues that has been raised by experts is the COVID-19 pandemic, which has come with a consequent economic downturn. Many people have actually lost their jobs. Families are struggling to sustain themselves. We've seen businesses close down, and these are sources of revenue that the government usually depends on to be able to finance some of its obligations. So this has really come with very negative impacts for this particular country, and it's going to be very tricky for the country to balance these numbers, to be able to ensure that even as we finance our recurrent expenditure and the development expenditure, we still can stay afloat at a time when the growing public debt has also proven to be quite a crisis. We remember the IMF approval of loans that really attracted a public outcry earlier, a real situation that raises a lot of concern. And all right, and it is something that really needs to be addressed going forward. As experts have already talked about, we need to change how we go about business in this particular country. So the budget for the financial year 2021-2022 is going to be unveiled this particular afternoon at the National Assembly. There you can see pictures on your screen as the motorcade of the Cabinet Secretary Ukur Yatan is making its way to the National Assembly. It's a few minutes from his office at the National Treasury. So this should be taking a very few minutes. We are doing this live for you. Keep it KBC Channel 1 because we will make sure that you get all the details that you need to know concerning the budget for the financial year 2021-2022. Of course, as we just see those pictures on the screen, Ashford, just to bring you in, you know, I just want us to understand a little bit about what you were talking about earlier, the COVID-19 situation. I know there's going to be a lot of focus on the post-COVID-19 recovery strategies. What would be your comments on this particular subject? You know, how do we bounce back? Because we really accepted its reality. We have taken a huge bite on this particular pandemic, economically speaking. How do we bounce back going forward, looking at what we are dealing with today?
I think we need to find a way of assisting people whose businesses have gone down, to revive them. I think the government needs to find a way of creating, even if it's some sort of a fund, which can be able to assist people to get back to business. You know, like in the area of, for instance, education, you know, there are very many private schools that have shut down. They have been unable to reopen, and people had invested in that sector. I'm also aware in the hotel industry, very many businesses have closed down. People have been laid off. So I think it will be necessary for the government to find a way of maybe setting up some sort of a fund or a kitty that can help people to get back to business. Because if those businesses are able to start or to move on, then they'll create jobs, they'll create employment for other Kenyans. Also, I think, now that we're talking about the budget, they need to see how they can be able to adjust our tax laws and policy to give people tax waivers, okay? Or whether it is reduction or waivers, you know, for some time, yeah, so that we can give, I think they call it what, tax, some sort of tax haven, yeah, for people to be able to get back to business. And then I think we also have to empower the businesses which are still in operation and which are thriving. Also can be empowered, okay, by either being given incentives or by even the same thing I'm talking about, tax waivers or something like that, to empower them, to enhance their capacity, probably even to create more jobs or to increase their production in whatever area they may be involved in. That way you'll be able to, we can be able to ameliorate some of these very bad economic effects that have come with COVID.
Ashford, still staying on COVID, what do you think are some of the fundamental lessons that this pandemic is teaching us about our economy and how it looks like, our work environment, our way of doing business? Because suddenly everyone had to shut down and people were really struggling to even adjust to the new normal of the workplace, the new normal of the business environment, paying things online and delivering at the doorstep. What is it that we are learning about this pandemic and how we need to be in the future?
I think one big lesson is that we should not put all our eggs in one basket, okay? We should not be over-dependent on a particular maybe sector or a particular source of income. So we need to diversify in various ways, okay? So that in the event that this sort of thing never happens again, at least you have an alternative, what we call a plan B. Yeah? You see, now people have the so-called the side hustles, yeah? So people have to think, you know, even me as a lawyer now, I'm like, actually, you can actually sleep hungry.
It's actually becoming a reality. Yeah, a reality. It's very possible.
So I can sit there in my house with my papers and I tell people, you know, I'm a lawyer, I do this and this, but you cannot put food on the table. So we have to think other way. One, we have to really build a saving culture. People have to be encouraged to do as much saving as they can. We have to cut our spending. We also have to try and also live within our means. Put something aside for a rainy day, because you never know when this sort of thing ever can happen again. and do not entirely depend on one line, of the source of income. Now, another very big lesson is that, like when the world was literally shut down, no travel, you cannot import stuff, you cannot, you can't bring in the goods into the country, or neither can you export. It has taught us one big lesson, that we need to be self-sufficient. It may be very difficult, but we need to deliberately try as much as we can to be self-sufficient in very many ways. If it's about food, we need to produce our own food, quality food, and go beyond. Even now, sell to other people, as opposed to bring food from outside. If it is our own professionals, whichever line, doctors, engineers, we need also to take care of these people, okay? So that they can help us, even to do the manufacturing part of the Big Four agenda. You need those guys. So we also need to empower even our own professionals as a government, okay? Whether it's in the health sector, we need to do that. So that in the event that the world is literally shut down, at least we can be able to help ourselves, yeah? As opposed to waiting for help from people like Jack Ma.
Everyone was on their own.
Who was very fast to start donating masks here, yeah? Because I guess they thought, these fellows are going to all die out of this COVID. So we need to be able. There's nothing. I don't think there's any. There's much we can do as a country, yeah. We need to be able. Now look, like these masks, yeah. We need to be able to manufacture our own, produce our own quality masks. Why do we have to import masks, for instance?
But you have to admit, we've really done good for ourselves.
It has come, you see. It is a necessity.
Who would have imagined
necessity. Necessity is the mother of it's necessity. Necessity is the mother of invention.
Yeah.
We've learned the hard way. But initially, there are simple things that we don't have to.
A mask was going at about an average of 150 shillings
when this thing started. And today,
a good mask.
Yes.
Yeah. We've really done good for ourselves.
Yeah.
As we continue having this conversation, the pictures you're seeing on your screens right now, this is just a process that is currently underway as the Cabinet Secretary Ukur Yatan is making his way to the National Assembly. Security detail there trying to put everything in order so that to ensure that there is a seamless transition from the National Treasury to the National Assembly. You can see him there carrying the briefcase, walking into the National Assembly chambers. This should be happening shortly, just exchanging pleasantries with some of the leaders there who are there to receive him, the National Assembly Speaker, I believe, and just walking him there just to make sure that he is well taken care of ahead of this particular, unveil this particular afternoon. So we're expecting a brief photo session, I believe, before they make their way into the National Assembly chamber. And then we are going to be handing it over live any minute from now. But in studio, what we have been doing is to just dissect the expectations that come ahead of the unveil of the budget for the financial year 2021-2022. And this is, bringing out a lot of issues that are forming conversation across the country. You've heard from Wananchi from different counties where we have our reporters tracking this for you in Kisumu, in Mombasa, really concerned about the plight of the common Wananchi, talking about the massive job losses that people had to incur during this COVID-19 situation and how they are struggling to stay afloat, how they are struggling to just sustain themselves, and what the government needs to do to cushion the common Wananchi during this particular time. And Ashford, because we'll be handing over any time, I just want to understand, from your perspective, you've talked about the lessons we've learned as a people. I want us to look at the side of the government. When COVID first came, a lot of focus was on COVID. Even the allocations of funds to mitigate the spread of COVID, we saw a huge spending on just managing this particular pandemic. Is it going to come with implications? Should we expect some consequences that may take us time to recover from going forward? And what do we really need to do?
Yes, obviously with what the government has gone through since 2020 when we were hit by this pandemic, it has brought with it serious consequences. okay? Because they had to put together some emergency sort of funds, like what the president, I think, gave for the economic, the stimulus. And obviously, it has a very big impact because basically it's a disruption. COVID was actually a disruption. It just disrupted everything. So even the budgets and everything, because it's an emergency, it will obviously take us time. Yeah, it will take us time to get back there. And but I'm just praying God that this virus thing just disappears. Yeah, to wherever it came back from. Or yeah, because we have lost lives. You know, the most precious thing here is talking about life. Yeah. Yeah. And every single life you are losing a resource. Because you see, the most important in economics, human resource is the most important resource. Yeah? The human being. Yeah. Yeah? That's the most important resource.
That should be the focus.
Yeah, that should be the focus. So this thing is taking away the lives of these guys.
Doctors,
look at it. Yeah. Like the top doctors we have lost. Yeah? It is not easy to get a doctor. You know how long it takes to get a guy to wear those things and to save a life. So it's completely disruptive, and it has brought cost implications. So it will take some time. All right. But, it has also taught us very good manners. You see, like now, hand washing your hands, hygiene.
The basic things.
The basics that people always used to take for granted. That's a very serious.
All right. Ashford, I just also want to get your quick comment, just as we're about to hand over, on the public debt, the growing public debt are concerned. Even now, the government ought to borrow more so that we can be able to facilitate this budget. How do we address this menace? Because it's becoming an issue.
I think, to me, actually, I don't even see what the big deal is about this thing. First, we need to arrest the situation. The more we sink into debt, the more our problems, escalate. So we need to arrest the situation, or at least slow down on this borrowing thing. And if we must, because I know for a fact the situation right now is such that we may not be able to survive without those loans, okay? Because of our past bad manners, what we have done as a country, in how we manage our economy, how we manage our finances. So we need to put that to a check, take control of the situation, and if we have to borrow, please, let's put these funds to the right use, okay? Prudence. Let's have prudential management, yeah? We comply with our constitution. There's a whole chapter on financial management, okay? So if we do that, then we can be able to help ourselves. But if we continue on that path, we are probably heading to, the deep sea. Yeah, we're going to end up losing even our assets, because these people at some point will start coming for their money.
Assets, if
so
we don't.
If we get to a point we can't pay the loans, we will be in a lot of trouble.
Thank you so much, Lawyer Ashford Muriuki, breaking down the numbers for us. Right now, we want to hand you over to the National Assembly so that you can follow the live proceedings as the Cabinet Secretary, Ukur Yatan, unveils the budget for the financial year 2021-2022.
You have just watched on your screen. He arrived about 5 minutes ago and was received by members of the House leadership, led by the leader of Majority Party in the National Assembly, Honorable Amos Kimunya, and Honorable John Mbadi, leader of Minority Party in the National Assembly. The budget pronouncement is anchored in Article 225 of the Constitution, that requires the Cabinet Secretary to update the House and indeed the country on the budget policy highlights and revenue-raising measures for the national government as contemplated under the Public Finance Management Act. And that one is in line also with Article 244C, that also speaks to budget highlights and revenue-raising measures. And during that session, the Cabinet Secretary shall be also submitting to the National Assembly a legislative proposal setting out revenue-raising measures for the national government, together with a policy statement explaining those measures. And of course, you will remember or know that the budget pronouncement is a precursor to the tabling and discussion of the finance bill, whereby members of the National Assembly will be considering recommendations made by the Budget and Appropriations Committee, that is chaired by the Honorable Kanini Kega, and also any other submissions that may have been made in consideration to ensure that the total amount